Alright, welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is your Hindsight Physical Media Obsessive here. Going to try something new now that I've covered the entirety of my collection. For now, going to try to tell a few stories using elements of my collection, perhaps form some opinions. And hopefully you'll come along and for the ride as we delve into new unexplored territories of physical media collection. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Going to be asking for a lot of interaction and feedback here. Hope to have you come along for the ride. Today, we're going to start with a particular movie that I've been fond of, but I don't think receives the credit it deserves. It begins back in 2006, and director Bryan Singer, as he was working on X2, one of the better, if not the best, X-Men movie. While working on X2, Bryan Singer got the idea of, hey, I want to do Superman. And so he got in touch with the powers that be at Warner Brothers, and they obviously agreed that, hey, a new Superman movie would be great. It's been 17 years past the last one with the great Christopher Reeve, as you see here in these movies here. Christopher Reeve had unfortunately recently passed about a year or two before that, in 2004, I believe it was. But it was time for Superman on film to live once again. And so, he was given the okay to put a Superman movie together in an interesting arrangement. Instead of Singer coming up with his own new Superman, Warner Brothers wanted to continue Christopher Reeve's Superman. And from what I understand and what I've come to interpret is that Singer just wanted his hands on Superman so much that, yeah, let's continue the Christopher Reeve story. And the result of that was this movie, Superman Returns, with Brandon Routh. Which I believe is a very underrated movie in the Superman canon. But I did feel it was rising in its legacy. So after the decision was made to put a new Superman movie together and to maintain the Christopher Reeve mythos of the whole thing, it came down to the casting. First and foremost, as you know, Brandon Routh, I believe, was a great call. He did a great job in playing the Man of Steel. He added some new elements to it that Christopher Reeve did not. I'll go into that in just a bit. In addition, instead of, well, Gene Hackman for Luke's Luthor, they came up with Kevin Spacey instead. Kevin Spacey added a new element to Lex Luthor that Gene Hackman did not have. Now, as a matter of fact, Warner Brothers actually asked Gene Hackman to reprise the role. Bryan Singer himself put the kibosh on that effort and said that he wanted to go in more of a different direction than what Gene Hackman provided in the first two movies. And so where you see that there's a great resemblance and an effort to maintain the same person in Clark Kent / Superman between Christopher Reeve and Brandon Routh, less of that was maintained between Gene Hackman and Kevin Spacey. Now, a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, took issue with the casting of Lois Lane, formerly Margot Kidder in the Christopher Reeve movies, and Kate Bosworth stepped up to play Lois Lane. Now, this movie's little Lois Lane, a lot of brass that Lois Lane had. I mean, there's a lot of debrassing going on. And a lot of the brass that Lois Lane had with Margot Kidder was basically eliminated with Kate Bosworth, which leads some people to say she had a boring performance in which she did basically nothing. My issue with Kate Bosworth is that, I mean, if you're going to make it a point to maintain, some simile of the first original movie, and you got Brandon Routh to do, channel Christopher Reeve, I mean, I just thought there were other actresses at the time that would have been a better choice than Kate Bosworth. And that's not saying anything about the woman's performance. It's just, maintaining the facsimile of the original movie. My choice would have been this young lady right here, Robin Tunney. You may remember her from The Craft. You may remember her on TV as The Mentalist, in The Mentalist. She was a mainstay of that show. Robin Tunney resembles Margot Kidder a bit better. I think she would have done a better job, not so much in acting, but in pulling off being Margot Kidder as Lois Lane, which I think should have been the objective. Interesting thing about Robin Tunney is that around that same time, she was involved in another Superman movie at the same time of sorts. That one being this movie right here, Hollywoodland. Another underserved movie. Great. You've got no other than Ben Affleck playing George Reeves, playing Superman in this movie, in which Robin Tunney was an acquaintance of George Reeves and was a witness to his unfortunate demise at a party. So maybe for that reason, she was simultaneously, or these movies were probably simultaneously in production. Robin Tunney had to say no to Superman Returns for the sake of Hollywoodland. I feel very strongly that she was asked. I doubt seriously if that movie, Superman Returns, came and went without Robin Tunney being asked to play Lois Lane. So, we've got Superman Returns. Again, I enjoyed the movie immensely. There were some parts that were different. I think Kevin Spacey brought a much more menacing presence to Lex Luthor than Gene Hackman. I mean, Gene Hackman was, sort of, comedic in his ways. One thing they did maintain was Lex Luthor's, obsession with real estate. If you recall, in the first movie, he wanted to knock half of California into the ocean, so all the property he had bought would comprise the new West Coast, and he would make his riches off of selling the new West Coast that he would create in setting off an earthquake at the San Andreas Fault and kill millions in the process. In the second movie, Superman 2, as you recall, the three Kryptonian criminals, he sided with those criminals, and all he wanted in return was the entire continent of Australia, to run as he saw fit and profit from. Just a little piece of land is all Lex Luthor was ever interested in throughout all three of these movies, including Superman Returns, in which Lex Luthor obviously reached the conclusion that seeing that he can't create it by killing millions and dropping off California into the sea, and he can't bargain with Kryptonian criminals, he was going to take a resort to terraforming land space using Kryptonian technology, and that was pretty much the premise of Superman Returns, terraforming a whole new landmass, again with his name on it, to sell off. Now, in looking at the movie and the landmass that resulted, it did not look too hospitable to me, so I'm not quite sure where the man was going with that. I don't imagine any greenery growing from it at all, but, that's neither here nor there. So, I enjoyed this movie. Some parts that Kevin Spacey did to differentiate himself from Gene Hackman, I think, is best part of the movie. I think the best part of this movie was Lois Lane on the yacht, and when she just, completely accidentally runs into the most dangerous man on the planet. Lex Luthor gets caught red-handed, in his plan to kill billions, as he said in the movie. He gets caught red-handed, brushing his teeth in a bathrobe. I love that exchange right then. The guy got caught red-handed. The thing about it, Lex Luthor had no plans with Superman and Lois Lane directly, but she basically put herself front and center back into his plans to eliminate the Man of Steel. Going more on the yacht, I thought Kevin Spacey really set himself apart from Gene Hackman because he was truly menacing with Lois Lane and the kid. As soon as he caught wind of the fact that the kid might be Kal-El's, who is that boy's father? And then from that point on, shit got serious in that room. And then you could see Kevin Spacey just had an absolute hate, or Kevin Spacey's Lex Luthor had a hate for Superman, an absolute hate for the man. He was just dripping with that hate, and he was just dripping with the possibility of get at what he hated through his son. I had no doubt that he would have, excuse me, eviscerated that kid just to make a message, send a message to Kal-El. If he had any inclination that was his son. just take a look at that montage of when he's questioning Lois as to the parentage of the boy, and you could see there was no joke in Lex Luthor. I mean, that was far and away different than, Mr. Luthor, Ned Beatty's Mr. Luthor. That's not that guy. That guy was dead serious, and he wanted to kill him some Kryptonians if he got the chance. But, never mind that. I mean, beyond that, in other parts, Brandon Routh and Kate Bosworth, they say the chemistry was bad. And I rather see it as that was Brandon Routh's approach to Superman to be a bit more distant, to be a bit more, if I may say, alien. Because there was a detachment that he had with Lois Lane that Christopher Reeve did not have with Margot Kidder in the first two movies. And I think that's just a matter of Brandon Routh trying to play it with a more alien sense, a bit more detachment from humanity, which I thought was an interesting take in itself. It was not bad chemistry between Bosworth and himself. I think that was his take, trying to be a bit more detached, but I'm in love with this Kryptonian, with this Earth woman, but hey, I'm not Earth myself, of Earth. Some things I get, some things I don't get, and I think that's how he took his approach to playing the role. The movie did well in the box office, and to be honest with you, the movie did well enough to prompt a sequel, and it was greenlit. Everyone was ready to go. Brandon Routh, I believe he was validated in the role of Superman, simply because they wanted to greenlit the sequel with him on board, continuing the Superman legacy. But my thing is, I didn't think the movie lended itself, of any ability to go anywhere now that he's a baby daddy. I understand it. I don't hate the ideal, but once you have Superman, and the baby daddy, reveal, you pretty much got to clip that branch at that point, start over elsewhere. So I don't know where a sequel would have went. Now, why the sequel wasn't made, despite being greenlit by everyone involved, from what I understand, it was because of Bryan Singer himself. Now, no, I've read words to the contrary to this, but from what I've surmised is that Bryan Singer wasn't really interested in continuing Christopher Reeve's Superman. He wanted his own Superman all along. And so when he was asked to basically perpetuate an ideal he was never on board with all the way, it looks as if Bryan Singer found ways to delay production time and time again. As a matter of fact, he went on to direct Tom Cruise in Valkyrie, which is a good movie. Don't understand why Tom Cruise didn't even attempt to cop a German accent. I have no idea, but it's still a good movie. But, he signed up for the Valkyrie, he signed up for a couple other projects, and basically all the contracts regarding this sequel timed out. The actors' contracts, their commitments timed out. They were free to go where they wanted to. And as far as Bryan Singer was concerned, it was just as well, because he had no interest in continuing Christopher Reeve's Superman yet again. So that is why the sequel to Superman Returns was never made. I hope the people that can seek satisfaction in the fact that the studio really wanted to get it done, validates the respective performances. And so, yeah, when you come across triple feature Blu-ray releases, you will see Superman 2, and Superman Returns. So you could see that, yeah, this movie is given some respect in the continuity, at least more so than Superman 3 and Superman 4, Quest for Peace. Those two movies were absolutely disposable. And I think that's the common feeling. But unfortunately, these movies have come out in 4K. Well, the original Christopher Reeves movies have come out in 4K. And so whatever ascending, vector that Superman Returns was on was pretty much cut short since it was left off the 4K bandwagon, in deference to the other four Christopher Reeve movies. So unfortunately, I do think Superman Returns has gone as far as it can go, which is disappointing, because it's got a lot of pedigree. It's got a lot of quality to it that allows it to bump up against the beloved Christopher Reeve Superman. Now, as a collector, this is not the optimal copy of Superman Returns, if that's what you're looking for, which I tend to look for in any given movie I have. The optimal copy of Superman Returns is actually part of this creature right here, the Superman Motion Picture Anthology, which has, or is supposed to have, all of the four Christopher Reeve movies and Superman Returns. But I so detest Superman 3 and 4 that I kind of bastardized the whole thing and made my own package. As you've heard in previous videos, I tend to do my own thing. So I customized my own motion picture anthology to involve, the first two movies, Superman Returns, and a bonus disc as well. As you can see, this is the look of that, or said disc, of Superman Returns versus the standard release you see right here. Now, the reason why and what sets this apart from this disc mainly is the inclusion of a deleted scene. Why it's a deleted scene, I do not know. Within the course of the movie, Superman disappears for a period of 5 years. The movie does not go into that disappearance at all. There's just a written, prologue at the beginning to set everybody up, and then, a half hour or so into the movie, he burns and re-enters into the atmosphere in his mom's backyard. However, there is a deleted scene in which shows Superman in space searching for remnants of Krypton. very nicely produced. To be honest with you, it reminded me of a Stanley Kubrick montage and the way it was shot and put together. Let me know what you think about that particular observation. I'm curious to know in comments, but if you get a chance to see it, it will remind you a lot of something Kubrick would do while he was off in space. And so, and in addition to this, Brandon Routh, in further vindication as Superman, he went on to play Superman in the CW Crisis of Infinity Earths, in which he played Superman, an older Superman. The thing I don't like about that is the particular Superman that he and Chris Reeve plays goes on to be, you know, this Superman in Kingdom Come, in which things don't turn out too well for the Man of Steel in that timeline, in which he basically lost everyone he loved due to a terrorist attack by the Joker. You know, when I think of Christopher Reeve and Brandon Routh, I mean, I'm of the mind, like, you know, not that Superman. So I've kind of redacted that altogether. And what's interesting is that the CW, I mean, being that that's the continuity we deal with, well, there's no Sun in that continuity in the CW show. As for the kid himself, I mean, a lot of people took issue with the fact that he had a kid. I really don't. Although, if you think about it and you do the timing involved between, you know, him leaving and her having a child, I mean, that timing is awfully dicey between Lois Lane's interaction with Superman and interaction with Richard, which I think was Perry White's son, I believe it was. I always get, and I don't know why, when I look at his name, James Marsden, as the one that played Richard, Perry White's son / Lois Lane's husband, I'm always reminded of, you know, comic book aficionados will know this. Jonah Jameson's son was John Jameson, and he's a character of his own in his own right in the Marvel books as Man-Wolf, you know, an astronaut, you know, lunar wolf guy. And for whatever reason, I see James Marsden in that role, and I keep thinking of Jonah Jameson's son and expect him to turn into a werewolf sometime throughout the movie. So there is that. But again, if you take time out, give Superman Returns another look. And again, if you're interested in having the best representation on Blu-ray, it's this right here that you'll only find in the motion picture anthology. This is my first attempt at trying to tell a story here. I'm going to brush up on those skills. But let me know what you think. Please like, comment, subscribe. We've got stories to tell. Have a good day.